back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So today we took another step towards a job. People are probably listening to this going, yeah, fuck you, Boyle, get a job. I'm not you, okay? We're different. Well, at least for another 3 to 4 weeks, we're different. I'm meant to be the beacon of light out there, like the lighthouse in a storm, just sending out the signal. Come here, follow this path. This will lead you to safe ground. That's who I am. I'm the lighthouse. But the lighthouse needs some upkeep, you know? It needs to be kept up. So I went down to Services New South Wales to do my heavy rigid driving knowledge test. And to say I did not study would be an understatement. I downloaded the PDF of the handbook and it was 132 pages. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to wing it and we'll see what happens at the end of that. So I get there. I took my computer with me just in case I felt like doing some study. So I was meant to do the test at 10:30. I get to the place at, what was it, like 9:45. And I was sitting in the car park and I decided to pop out my computer and just have a little scroll through the 132 pages. And I find it hard to concentrate now just on a fucking text message. So 132 pages, there's no chance. So I'm just scrolling. I'm not even really reading it. I'm just looking at some pictures, nodding, pretending it's soaking in. I go to the sections that I feel like I have the least knowledge about, which is hard to differentiate because I have very little knowledge of all sections. And I just read a little bit about like the length of the trucks and the loading of trucks, which I should know because I have driven trucks, but I didn't know any of this shit. And I found it interesting. I was like, oh, is that right? That means I've been doing illegal shit the whole time. Just constantly doing illegal shit. So anyway, I did 15 minutes of study and then I go into Services New South Wales and I'm like, hey, can I do the driving test? And they're like, yeah, you can. And I give the lady my license and she pulls up like my history. I don't know what they're seeing on that computer, but every time I go into anywhere, whether it's Vic Roads in Victoria or Services New South Wales, whenever I hand over my license and they look at the screen, they scrunch their face up like there's problems coming. I don't know what problems, but I can see it in their face. And they just scrunch their nose and then they're looking deep into the computer. I'm like, what? She's like, nothing. And I was standing there for like 5 minutes while she's looking at the screen. And eventually, I think she just gave up on whatever she was looking at. She was like, fuck this guy. I'm not dealing with that shit. And she just let me through. And so I do the driver's test. So I start the driver's test. So it's 45 questions. The first 15 questions, you can get like 3 wrong. And then from 15 to 45, you can only get 1 wrong. And the questions, I'm telling you, like 38 of them are full-blown. If you get them wrong, you're full-blown retarded. It's shit like, if you see a pedestrian, do you slow down and wait for them to cross safely? Or do you speed up, toot your horn and hit them? Shit like that, just multiple choice. So the boy owl just flies through the first 15. Then the second fucking lot, the next fucking 30. Did I say 35 before? 15 and 35? Anyway, the next 30, a little bit tougher, but it just so happened, just by pure chance and luck, I got like 5 hard questions and they just happened to be the 5 questions I looked at in my 15 minutes of study. If I hadn't done that 15 minutes of study, there's no way I would have passed. I would have got all 5 of those questions wrong because it had to do with like the angles of the way you tie down the load. And I got them wrong when there was the multiple choice in the handbook. I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Fucking, if that comes up, at least I know that now. And that was just a miracle. So I get through those and I get down to question like 42. And I'm like, I've only got 3 questions left. I'm pretty good here. It's almost impossible for me to fail now. I said that to myself. And then 43 comes up. I crush that question. And then 44, the second last question comes up. And it's just a sign. It's a yellow sign. And it says dip on it. And I've never seen this fucking sign before. And the only 2 legitimate possible answers was, does this sign mean dip your headlights? If you're in a truck, dip your headlights. Or does it mean there's a steep dip coming? And the question before, question 43, it was like a sloping car downhill, which means like a steep fucking dip. So I was like, they kind of doubled up on the fucking dip question, could they? And I'd never seen the sign before, so I'm like, maybe it just means dip your headlights. Maybe it's like a congested area and you got to fucking do it. I don't know. I don't know the road rules. I just know how to pass a retarded fucking multiple choice test. So I say dip headlights, and that's wrong. It's a steep dip coming. So now I'm on fucking 1 wrong answer with 1 question remaining. And I'm like sweating now. If I get this last question wrong, I fail. Thankfully, the last question was the same as the previous, like 42. Just full-blown retarded. It was something like, if an agent from Services New South Wales asks you for a bribe and you give them a bribe, do you A, get away with it and celebrate with your friends, B, pay the bribe and don't tell anyone about it, or C, you and the agent will be fucking whatever, arrested and thrown in jail, whatever. And obviously I passed. So yes, I'm another step closer to my dream, my absolute fucking dream of being back in a crane or out there. But now I'm only 197 Patreons away from fucking avoiding it because my man fucking Jeff Linder jumped back on the Patreon. And he said to me he only left because I stopped posting stuff on the Patreon, which makes 100% sense. Why would you be on the Patreon unless I'm posting? But the thing is, I was posting and I got busy and I missed a week and I didn't hear boo from anyone. So I didn't hear from anyone. So I was like, oh, cunts probably don't even give a fuck. So I left it another week and still nothing. I didn't hear from anyone. And I'm like, all right, well, fucking, let's leave it another week. And that week turned into fucking like 6 months. So I will be posting significantly more on the fucking Patreon. And I'm going to get the Degeni Diaries happening. I'm going to fucking just pluck someone out of the hat. And we're doing a fucking Degeni Diaries. I'm going to fucking have a 30-minute conversation or 45-minute, however long it takes, with someone who's on the Patreon. I'm going to post it so all you cunts can listen to it, but only if you're on the Patreon. So get into it. I'll start that next week in between doing, I don't know, my first aid certificate. How about that? Anyway, that'll do for today. Jump on the Patreon, head to boylecomedy.com. The link's there, and I'll see you the fuck later.